And then, so where it'll land is YouTube is under Nikki Roach. It's the same thing.
Okay. So it'll be synced to YouTube, but not Facebook.
Right. I'm gonna post it that we're on YouTube.
Okay.
And then, so where it'll land is YouTube is under Nikki Roach. Same thing.
So it'll be synced to YouTube, but not Facebook.
It's on YouTube. Right. I'm gonna post it that we're on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm gonna post on Facebook. And then, so where it'll land is YouTube is under Nikki Roach. Right now. Same thing. It's working.
So it'll be synced to YouTube, but not Facebook.
It's on YouTube. Right. I'm gonna post it that we're on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm gonna post on Facebook. And then, so where it'll land is YouTube is under Nikki Roach. Right now. Same thing. It's working.
So it'll be synced to YouTube, but not Facebook.
It's on YouTube. Right. I'm gonna post it that we're on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm gonna post on Facebook. And so where it'll land is YouTube is under Nikki Roach. Okay. So yes. All this technology.
I wish I could help you. Me and technology,
No, it's just so weird. And I've been on meetings all day today, but not recording. I will say that.
Yeah.
So I'm posting that.
Okay.
So,
because I see where you posted on YouTube.
On YouTube, on the yes. These educators full of all this education try. No, but we're gonna make this work. We're gonna make it work. So we are live on YouTube. I'm gonna go ahead and press record.
Okay.
And will ask you to consent for that. And we're gonna go ahead and hop in and get started.
Okay.
Say hello to everybody in their respective places. So much has happened in just an hour. It is so funny, but you know what? We learned, trials may come, but we persist, and we, as David, we run to the mountain, to the giants, and to the thing that could very well take us clean up out of here with much confidence. And I'm just happy to be here with you. You're listening to Nick of Time Radio, powered by Sparkman Pathway to Careers and KSTL 690. Those of you who follow me know that we've been on the sabbatical for quite a while due to COVID, was part of it. But initially I was on a self pause, if I can label it that, just to take a moment to catch my breath with all the great things that God was doing. But also just to take a pause to understand that wanted to just get some things in perspective and get some things in alignment Because we can find ourselves kind of everywhere doing a whole bunch of great things, but you're just busy. You're not actually making stuff happen. And I always try to make sure that I press pause once a year, to make sure that I'm not getting caught up in this rat race, but to understand that there's so much more to be done. So now we're back. We're back with a full schedule for the rest of the year. And what crazy great way to start the show and the season, I guess season back up, with understanding what it means to be beautiful. And there is so much that we are faced with right now in the world. Um, we've got the pandemic, we've got social injustices, we've got crime and police brutality. There's just so much going on in the world. We've got major election coming up this year. You better get off your butts and go vote. So much going on. And again, learning how to press pause to make sure we have clarity. Because there's a whole bunch of things that have been distracting for us, but at the same time, man, there's so many things that have been a blessing that has come out of this season of life. Never have we experienced anything like this, not in my lifetime. And probably the biggest thing that has happened that caused those of us who didn't want to sit down and be still and reflect, we sure have had our time. And to talk about this a little more deeper, I am excited to have my guest on the line, Miss Sylvia, Lady Sil Watkins. How are you?
I am well. How are you, Nikki? It's so good to see you.
Now it has been a minute since we have seen each other, and I'm just so excited now that we are reconnected because we've had a chance, I think, for the last couple of years to at least connect once or twice, and I mean it's a deep down connect.
I know. I know. I think that everybody should have a kind of friend where you don't necessarily talk every day. You may talk once or twice a year, but when you talk, it's a 2, 3 hour conversation.
All right, tissue and all, right?
I know. And I remember the last time we talked, we were at a birthday party. And that had to be maybe 2 years ago. But, we were supposed to be there for the party. But we sat at that table in the back, I never forget it, and talked and cried and just kind of picked up where we left off. That seems to be always how our conversations end up going. But I think everybody should have that kind of friendship. So I appreciate you for that.
No, and I appreciate you because what I love about you and where you are, or even where you've been the last even 10 years. Let me say 10 years, because I remember one time we met and I was going to meet my father, I think, afterwards. I'm like, wow, we've been on this journey for a while, but we went to high school together.
I know. Were you were class officer? I think, were you the president or the vice president, or you were something significant? I do remember that. I was always the lonely, shy kid.
I won best hair.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I remember that.
No, but no, it's just a joy to be reconnected, and it's so funny because even though we're gonna have to like have a little more time, despite all of our technical difficulties today, we got it together, and I wanted to have this conversation and just hop right in, just to talk about this whole concept of um, the topics that I mentioned as in the intro, but from your perspective, how you're addressing it and approaching it. One, considering that you are an educator, some who may not know you, you are an educator, you've been an educator for years, a real educator in the classroom, building curriculum, developing curriculum, lecturing. You are a vocalist, singing. I think you've had your hand at the pen a little bit. And then you are a host of your own show, Being Beautiful, on Dynasty Television.
Yes.
And so I'm just gonna start right here and ask, how have you kept it together with all that going on
Mm-hmm.
in the world, but all this going on in your life?
Sure. Oh my goodness, that is a full question. I think that one of the things that has helped with everything that's been going on, the virus, the pandemic, and just trying to navigate through all of that. One of the things that has helped me is the fact that I am an introvert. Now, many people, not many, but a few people have said, I would have never known that about you. Well, outside of radio and television and having to be on, when it's time to shoot, right, in the
Your brother.
exactly. So when all of that's done, I'm a homebody. I like to be at home. I like to get out and socialize and hang out with friends and da da da. But because, the world is shut down, I don't mind being at home. I can find 50 things to do at home. And I remember when we first went into quarantine, and the principal at the school where I'm teaching at, she sent out an email just of different ideas of different things you can do just to keep yourself mentally strong. And one of the things that was on the list was taking a free course. So I clicked on the link, and it was just a series of colleges and universities that were offering free classes. So, me being the introvert and a little bit of a bookworm, I signed up for a class through Yale University, I promise you. And this class was all about the psychology of happiness.
Yep, I've seen it.
Did you see that?
Completed it, but I have yet.
I haven't completed it either, because you can,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you can complete it at your own pace. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, because that's just, I don't know, that's just my thing. Yeah. So, I would have to say finding things that really matter to me, finding opportunities to just kind of extend and enrich my learning, finding ways to continue the process of valuing myself and my 10-year evolution, as you mentioned earlier, is really some of the things that I've done. I'm single, so I still live at home by myself. But, social media is like what we can all use to stay connected. So I can talk to, one of my best friends. She's in San Antonio, Texas. I can talk to, some friends in St. Louis. I have some friends, all over the place. So I really tried to use social media, but at the same time, I had to monitor that, because sometimes you can infuse too much in your spirit, and you just have to say, okay, let me put that aside for now, just to kind of keep my spirit clear. So I would dare say those are some of the things that, I've done. During this time of being quarantined, it has really caused me to stop.
And have you really stopped? And when I say that, because a lot of individuals I've chatted with, they said that they're still not resting in their, as you said, spirit. They're still not resting in their mind. It's still racing with their thoughts, and yet they're losing it a little bit.
Yeah.
So how is it? So you took the course, but what else have you done to kind of to really be still?
I'm gonna be honest with you. In December of last year, I took a leave from my job because I had to have surgery. I ended up having a hysterectomy. That's a whole nother show. So after the surgery, I was in the hospital 3 or 4 days. And I went home. I was in bed for maybe a week, and without being graphic, I had to end up going back to the doctor because I was still hemorrhaging. And he told me, to your point, he said, "What are you doing?" And I love my doctor, Dr. Simkis. He's amazing. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'll sleep for a couple hours and then get up and walk around and, lay down for a little bit longer." He was like, "Don't do that." So to your point, I was still.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And he said, "I want you to go home and I don't want you to do anything but go to the restroom and get back in bed. You have to stop everything in order for your body to heal." He said, "Because right now," he said, "I've done everything I can do." He said, "So now it's on you." He said, "Ultimately it's on God." He said, "But now it's on you. You've got to stop." So I went home, and I remember telling my mother, "Well, I'm on bed rest for 4 weeks." And she said, my mom, she was like, "Okay." So that,
you're an introvert, but we're having to tell you to sit down.
that's such an oxymoron, right? That didn't even make sense.
But at the same time, thank you for being so transparent, because there's a whole bunch of lessons in that.
It's a whole bunch of lessons in that. I think that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're saying you can't heal until you be still.
And a lot of times, a lot of times a lot of times internal healing cannot take place until you recognize that the pace you've been going at doesn't work. What you've been doing doesn't work. How you've been processing, how you've been handling situations, that doesn't work. So if you really want an internal healing, or if you really want to move forward, you got to stop. Literally.
Be able to properly move forward.
Yes, properly. Because that's a good point. Because you can move forward, but still not experience the internal healing that needs to take place. And then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the road, you're still unfulfilled. Well, when it was time for you to sit still, you didn't.
Or suffering from side effects because you wouldn't sit still.
My God, today. And sometimes side effects will set you back.
Or delay.
So that 4 weeks, I never knew how difficult it was to do nothing. My mother brought me some books, and I wasn't even motivated to open the books. I was just.
That's what we do.
Yes. But I'm going to tell you what the turning point was for me. Because I had surgery the beginning of about mid-December. So right around Christmas time, my cousin Lori, I love her to pieces. She's almost like a sister. Her and my other cousin, her sister Jennifer, came by my place, and she gave me a Christmas gift. So I opened it up, and it was a Christian planner. I had never even heard of Christian planners before. So I started flipping through it, and I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." And it's a planner where you can plan your humanity side of life, schedules and bills and all that. And then in that same month, because it's divided up into months, so the beginning of the month is all your natural stuff, bills, all that. And then it flips to, okay, what are you studying? Scripture-wise. How are you going to use that to apply to your daily living? Okay, once you apply that to your daily living, who's going to be affected by what this thing takes you step by step by step. At the beginning of it, you create your own vision board. So that is what kind of, that's almost the light bulb came back on for me. I was like, oh, okay. So I would have to say that planner, really my cousin being led of God to give it to me, because that's exactly what I needed in order to continue to sit still. But in sitting still, it caused me to really look at the totality of my life, what I had done up until that point, and what I wanted to do going forward.
And that is so interesting, because I always say, and I start the year out all the time with what I have called, and it's I actually have a draft of a little thin planner. And I was like, this is for me. But someone was like, no, you need to put it out there. However, the thing is, I found years ago, more than 10 years ago, that when you write things down, there is a different level of commitment.
Yeah.
But when I found what really helps is when you take that written word that you've written out, connect with someone and hold each other accountable. So I always say, challenge yourself and find someone that you can, even was a male. He did it one time, but he was like, I don't want all the extra stuff, but I'm gonna do a little list. And
yeah.
So we started texting each other once a month. This going. And the moment someone shared, like, oh my God, I've been really pursuing XYZ.
Yeah.
Didn't think it would happen. And he caught on so fast. And another friend, he actually did it and had his wife do a separate one. They had been married over 20 years. They had not known the stuff that they had written out on their documents about the plans that they wanted to do for just that year. It caused other things to come out.
Yeah.
With all that, with you now writing it out, had you ever done that in the past?
To answer your question, yes. I would do it every year.
What was different this time?
I think, oh my gosh, nobody's asked me that. I think that what was different this time, I think what was different this time was, number one, I had started, even before surgery, I had started the process to really start digging deep down into what was going on with me and why.
And so, but why were you pursuing that? Was there a sense of unfulfillment, or was there an urgency, like something is bubbling up, but I'm ignoring it?
You know, the reason why I got to that point is because I had gotten to a place in life where I recognized there was more for me to do. But in order to start that journey, I had to recognize that I had capped out on the level I was on. It's almost like if you have a credit card and you go to the mall to use it and it declines, well, you've maxed out. You can't use it anymore. And I felt like I had maxed out at that place in life. You know, I had been teaching. Well, now I've been teaching for 22, 23 years. So I've been teaching for a number of years. You know, I was always behind the scenes with mom and her, musical career. I was, helping to manage Chris and Kyle for 15 years. I had gotten up to like 300 pounds. I mean, I had just maxed out. The church where I was at that time, I was events director and a member for like 15 years. So I was doing all this stuff, but I was nowhere on that list. So I got to the point where I had to stop. And this was even before this was maybe 4 years before the surgery. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I didn't know, I didn't know anything other than I can't do this anymore. I can't I don't have anything left on this level. It's almost like if you have a pitcher of water and the water is overflowing and you can't stop it. It's like you doing all this stuff, but I had no inner fulfillment.
And what's interesting, I think it was a year ago, I posted, because I used to do the Wednesday post motivation, and I'm like, I've done that for years. Let me, you reminded me, there's one that I posted, the fish bowl, but the fish cannot go all the way down in the bowl. And even though the fish is in the water,
yeah,
it can't fit. It can't fit in. It's outgrown the space.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was a season that I thought, and then I learned it was a truth. It was a shift, and that pivoting. That's not always easy. So I'm going to ask you, because I'm saying it's not always easy, because there is truth in real comfort.
Yeah.
When you are the go-to person, and I don't mean just comfort, just showing up, oh, I can knock this out and do it.
Oh, sure.
In your ego, we all have ego, and you don't realize it until you get pulled out of a situation into one you have no knowledge of, and you don't know the answers, but it makes you go back.
Yes.
You want to go back because it's like, I was celebrated, and not
Come on.
celebration, but you feel like you are more valued.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily true, because
no, it's not.
You've outgrown and you need to shift to be stretched some more. It's
just
mastered this class. Now it's time for you to go, like you finished your undergrad, it's now it's time to step for masters. But a lot of us won't take the pivot or the shift. So what pushed you to the next edge?
What pushed me to the next edge was, some may say it was something on the inside. What I say was, it was the Holy Ghost saying, there is more for you, but I need you to trust me. You cannot, go ahead.
Back to that ego, that stuff is real.
It is real.
It has nothing to do with humility.
No, it doesn't. Not at all.
That battle in our head, because it's like,
yes,
I want to be low. I want to be, no,
yeah.
You're good at something, but you can't do it in the wrong place.
Absolutely. And where I found myself at that time was, I remember nights of driving home 10:30, 11:30 at night, after orchestrating huge concerts, recordings, productions, guest artists, Donald Lawrence, Israel, the Clark sisters. I mean, you remember we put on some stuff.
Packed house.
Oh my goodness. But I remember leaving those kind of events with thousands of people and being broke, tired, and empty.
That's real.
And at the time, say it again.
Broke in several ways.
In several ways. Did we produce incredible events? Absolutely. When I was events director, we did productions and plays and conferences and made for TV events. I mean, we did all kinds of stuff. And my phone, I'm, carrying my phone every day, all the time. So
and working.
Oh my goodness. But then to finish all of that and go home, I remember one Easter, we did this huge Easter production, never forget it. And we had 2 services on Easter. I remember the services were over. I drove home. I was so tired, I don't even remember how I got home. And I'm not being sarcastic. I remember getting home. My mother had cooked this big dinner. There was people in the house. I literally remember walking up the steps, changing my clothes, going to bed at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, And I did not wake up until the next day. And my mother was like, "You didn't eat." I was more than physically tired. I was emotionally just drained. But at that time, I didn't know. In my head, that's what you do. That's the cost. That's the sacrifice of ministry. And I'm not saying there is no sacrifice in ministry, but what I am saying is there has to be a healthy balance, which at that time I knew not of.
Yeah, and I use the word harmony.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
When you balance, something still is out of balance.
Yes.
Yeah. But I totally get what you're saying. Understanding.
Yeah.
Continue to pour out.
Yeah.
You never pour anything in.
Yeah.
Like a car, you can't drive it at some point the little light comes on. It warns you.
Come on. Yeah.
And everything else around us, whether it's you're married and your spouse is like, wait a minute, you gone again? Or kids, like give warnings.
Yeah.
Handle, and then what happens? It stops.
It stops. It stops. And when I got to that place, I remember it was a series of events. I stepped down from leadership. And I'm not suggesting if you're tired, you step down. I'm not suggesting that. But
because to me, you can't give what you don't have.
No. And at that time, I remember saying to our bishop, I don't have anything else to give you. And that was putting those words out in the atmosphere like that was one of the hardest things I have ever had to do, because I wasn't used to being true to myself. I wasn't used to speaking my truth. I hadn't been comfortable enough in my own skin to say, you know what, this isn't working for me. So I ended up stepping down from leadership. I stepped down from managing Chris and Kyle. There were a few other relationships that I had to kind of disconnect from, because what I had to recognize was, here's the thing. When you are doing for others and they are benefiting from what you are giving to them, if you don't have that harmony that you speak of, you will end up in a place where, how do I say this? You'll end up where they're not going to tell you that you're doing too much. They're not going to tell you, okay, you've done enough. They're not going to tell you, okay, I'm good. Because what you're doing is benefiting their interest. So I had to recognize that people are not always going to cover you in that manner. And God love them all. That was a very difficult reality for me to face. It was very difficult for me to recognize that I had given and given and done and done and done. And nobody said, that's too much. Nobody said, are you taking care of yourself? Nobody said that. And please hear me, I'm not blaming anybody.
I hear what you're saying. It comes to a point to where we have to be strong enough,
yes,
confident enough, because I wouldn't go on the limb and say this is 100% true, but I will say gender also, when we're females and we are giving, and we're giving of our talent, and we're giving from our heart, and we're serving those around us, or who we are called to serve at that time, with excellence.
Yes.
Why are they going to say you're doing too much?
But this is
the momentum is gone, but go ahead.
No. This is a revelation I came to, I would say about a month ago. There is a difference between someone who is meek and someone who is weak.
Yes.
Someone who is weak emotionally, weak psychologically, spiritually, they will sit back and let the chips fall where they may. They will allow to be mishandled and mistreated and misunderstood, and they will just tolerate it and deal with it. What I had to realize with my personality, because for years, even back in high school, I considered myself to be shy and, weak and, just
And I would call
fragile and all that.
I would even call you like those who were a little closer and not just saying you like who's the lady with the mic with the headgear and the pad walking around the clipboard. Quiet storm.
Well, and that's what I had to, that's what I had to recognize, that, first of all, God had to remind me what his word declared about me. I'm the head and not the tail. I'm above and not beneath. I'm of a royal priesthood. So I had to constantly feed myself that. And then I had to feed myself with the knowledge of, you're not weak, you meek. And when you are a meek person, that is strength, like you said, but under control. I don't have to be the center of attention. I don't have to be the loudest one in the room. I don't have to, seek platforms and that kind of thing. But I do know that my presence does bring attention. I do know that my meekness can be mishandled. And that's kind of another transformational moment that I came to, because I really started in being, in bed for a month. It really caused me to look at, okay, who's in your world and why? Do they value who you are? Are they for you? Or as I heard TD Jakes say, or are they just for what you are for? Big difference. So when I really start looking at my circle and looking at who's in my world and why, it caused me to really look at, can who's in my life, can they handle my meekness? Can they handle not mishandling me, because I am a giver?
A handle can be unpacked.
It can be unpacked, absolutely. So that really has given me another level of strength and confidence, even in these transitional days of my life. It really causes me to ask, can you handle me? Or as I heard Torrey Roberts out of California, he did a series on Instagram a couple months ago. And he said, always look at someone, he said, especially for singles and that kind of thing, are they large enough to handle your meekness? Do they have the capacity to handle who you are now? Not where you've been.
I love that word.
Oh my goodness.
Because there's so much in that.
Oh my goodness. So to answer your question from 15 minutes ago, those are just some of the things that I've been doing during this time.
I think that is so powerful, and we needed all of that.
Yeah.
Understand that while we are here in this space, you are here in this space. It is not just you, but it's all of us having to find out, one, kind of see who people really are during this season.
Yeah.
Those who are who have launched businesses, who are
yes
process. I had so many women of color in my African American sister circle.
Yeah.
Who were leaving jobs, and we are number one, meaning African American women.
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah. We are like truly creating that space.
Yes.
A lot of us were not prepared enough because we have passion and we have the heart.
Yeah.
But we don't realize there's a business side.
Yeah.
Come along with that. And it's not anything wrong that we don't know. But when it comes to getting access to the things that we need, it's not always as easy.
Absolutely.
I had to learn it's okay to not choose, because a lot of people, what I was hearing, a lot of females, that I need to choose which path. And I'm like, I don't think you need to choose whether I want to be an entrepreneur or an employee, because what I had discovered in this downtime, and also my little own self-made sabbatical, you choose. You don't have to go along with what everybody else is doing. So I even tell people now, because they'll ask like, oh my gosh, how did you leave your job? And I'm like, one, I planned for 2 years, because like you, I knew I was at capacity. I knew I reached the point of being the fish too big for the bowl.
Yes.
I knew that I was, as you said, the pitcher and the water was over.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also had something bubbling up.
Come on.
I needed to address that.
Yes.
Without distraction.
Yes.
But even though when I left, I prepared for 2 years before I did that shit.
I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
100% entrepreneur, because I did not have the business side locked in. I didn't. But I had clients that were ready for me to do certain work.
Yeah.
And now that I've gone through that, I'm like, so I'll ask like, okay, why are you doing this? Why are you wanting to do this? Like, I ask hard questions when people like, you don't want to quit your job, because your first investor is your job. That check you get is your investment. That is your loan.
Oh, that's real good. I hadn't even thought of it that way.
Your first, I said, your job, shift that mindset, pivot.
Yeah.
To understand that job is your paid internship. Start out stuff that you've not done that has nothing to do, but all to do to help you learn the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was one thing I did not know that side. Still learning that side.
Yeah.
But I went back to work, because I needed to do what I needed to do.
Sure.
Realizing I am an employee and an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I sat in a class and that's what also shook me up to where I'm like, wow, they said how many of you are entrepreneurs? And so, everybody raised their hand. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no. After they broke down some different other questions, such as, okay, do you have your financial statements? Do you have your budget? Do you have your plan? All these different things. And it's like, well, you're not entrepreneurs. You have a hustle.
Big difference.
When I heard that, I'm like, let me go back so I can actually truly fund and stop just doing the stuff that was burning, that I knew I needed to birth.
Yeah.
But now those things are moving. Why? Because I'm funding. I have a pipeline, a monetary pipeline that's feeding the rest of this stuff that I was doing. But what's funny, now the clients have come too. So you figure it out, you pivot, you make it work. But in this, I found I define, and I used to say this all the time, but I had to live it out in a different way. One, to trust God.
Absolutely.
It was
and see, here's the thing.
And then he ended up stripping all that, and I had to figure it out. I couldn't figure it out on me.
And see, and that's just the thing. It's one thing to trust God on one level. It's one thing to trust God for other people. It's one thing to trust God on the ground level.
And I don't mean trusting for, I want this job.
No. It's not about trusting God for what you have the ability to do yourself.
Okay. My father said, and I said, I get it now, Dr. Roach. If you can build it with your own supplies, if you can pay for it with your own wallet, if you can move it in your own strength, He said, go back. You haven't dreamed big enough.
My God, today.
He said, that's what you can do.
Yeah.
Bring me something else.
Because if you really want to trust, you have to be able to trust God for what you can see, but can't see. I'm
talking, even what this space I'm in, I am beyond blessed. However, like when we were talking, as we were working through the difficulties,
yeah,
I can see nothing in front of me, but yet I see everything in front of me. And my thing is, you either gonna go forward.
Come on.
Or you sit here and be comfortable in this.
Come on.
Little bit.
Come on. You have to be able to get to a point. You have to be able to get to a point where you can trust God for what you cannot manifest yourself. And I think, because I have this one friend of mine who I can tell is struggling. And anytime I have a conversation with them about this particular topic, they end up telling me the same thing. I just want XYZ. I just want XYZ. 4 or 5, 6 months later, or weeks later, I just want XYZ. And the Holy Spirit revealed to me yesterday, okay, this person keeps saying, I want XYZ. I just want this. I just want that. Well, that what it may require is for you to do what you've never done.
That's usually what it is.
It's like, and I did tell them one time, I said, because I asked them, well, what do you want? I just plainly asked this person, what do you want out of life? What do you want? Their initial response was, I don't know. The next response 3-4 weeks later was, I just want XYZ. I just want da 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 da. And I said to them, I don't think that it's you, that you don't know what you want. I said, I think you know what you want. The problem is, are you willing to do what it takes to obtain what you say that you want? So if there's something that you will believe in God for, even if you can't see it, you have to have the faith enough, you have to have the trust in God to do your part in order to go after what God has for you. And what he has for you may not be packaged the way you thought.
And the timing is never what we want. Ever. Ever.
Now, so, I have been reflecting on all of that during quarantine.
What's so beautiful is that this is the strategies on being Be YOU-Ti-Ful.
Absolutely.
Your theme, your company, all of it.
Absolutely. I've had many people to ask, well, how did you come up with that name, or where did it come from? And I remember when I started on the radio, and I think I remember talking to you when I was on the radio. I can't remember. And I had like 2 or 3 weeks to come up with a name for the show. I needed a personality name and all that kind of stuff. So that's how I came up with Lady Seal.
Yes. I remember.
Yeah.
Across from the Galleria.
Yes. Yes. And I came up with Lady Seal because my grandmother started calling me Seal, SYL, when I was a baby. Okay. And, I'm this lady now, so I just put Lady Seal together. So then with the name, I was sitting down with a friend of mine, and I told her I need a name for this show. I don't know what I'm going to do. And she Googled just different images, and she showed me a Google image that said Be YOU-Ti-Ful. I said, that's it. She was like, so why would this be it? I said, because when you look at it, you think it says beautiful. Yeah. But Be YOU-Ti-Ful to me suggests there has to be an inner beauty, an inner wholeness, an inner sense of fulfillment in order for that beauty to be shown on the outside. And at that time, that was the evolution I was in the process of becoming. And, to be honest with you, I think I'm still on that journey. I think that, God has,
We die.
I mean, as the old folk used to say, he's brought me from a mighty long way. But I feel like I'm kind of still in that journey, and I'm just kind of learning more tools along the way.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about your show and Dynasty Television, and
Yeah.
what about what's going on with it, and what can we expect as we move forward?
Sure. A few months ago, when we were, in the heat of quarantine, I interviewed some very dear friends of mine, and I had learned the art of Zooming and Facebook Live. So I promise you, I feel your struggle with that. It was just, oh my, it was just too much. But I interviewed some very good friends of mine, William and Tiandra Bland, because William ended up being diagnosed with COVID. And he had a really, really difficult time. He really did. I mean, God healed him and restored him, and he's doing great now. But William and Tiandra talk about their story. They talk about their journey. Tiandra talked about, how she had to kind of keep things going at the house because they have little babies. So they have a very intriguing story that I wanted to share. So that's one show that's set to be released soon. And then another one, I was trying to think of, programming that we could put out that wasn't so heavy and wasn't so dark and wasn't so depressing. And, COVID is just, it has taken over our world, with the deaths and the illnesses and the cases and just testing and, just all of that. So I was trying to think of just some lighthearted programming, and I went straight to my family. One of my cousins, she's in Charleston, South Carolina. First Lady Andrea Johnson, her and her husband are pastors. And Andrea has an incredible business as a leading entrepreneur in her community. She has what she calls daily professions. And daily professions consist of, she has several books and devotionals she's put out. She's put out artwork. And she also has a whole line of desserts. But when I tell you, these desserts are, as I called it for the show, a guilty pleasure. I mean, she has like a sweet potato, maple pecan pound cakey. I mean, just heavenly. This a red velvet cake with cream sauce and just all this just sweetness. So I wanted to interview her because I wanted to give us something to kind of take our minds off of things, and what better way to do that but with sweets.
So where do you see things going next? Because I know you were working towards building your personal brand. You've done that and done it well. And then you morph into the television, from radio into television, and television has agreed with you, and you have made that happen. What money didn't matter? What will we find you doing?
Say that last part again. What?
Said money not mattering, location not mattering, not mattering. What will we find you doing next?
Oh my, Nikki, you're asking me questions and nobody's asked me. A few things, and let me kind of start personally. I'm 47, and I was so consumed in life with things and jobs and events and doing this and supporting this and doing that, like I mentioned before, I put myself last on the list. So I really felt like in order for me to get back to myself, it was a process. The first thing I had to tackle was my health and my weight. But I'm working on it, because when I started, I was, like I said, close to 300 pounds. So now I'm about 40 pounds down, praise the Lord. But I got a little ways to go. So I definitely want to keep working on my health. You know, it is so easy for us as singles. There's some that are single and like, I'm good. I don't need no man. I'm good. I can't really say that. I don't really have the capacity to verbalize that. Um, I would like to settle down. I do. I feel that I'm in a very good place where I finally feel like I have room to receive someone. It's one thing to say, I want somebody in my life and I want to be single and I want to get married. It's one thing to say all that, but then you have to ask yourself, okay, do you have room to receive somebody? Have you dealt with your baggage? Have you dealt with your issues? Are you dealing with your credit? I mean, come on. Are you dealing with your finances? Where are you with your career? So I feel like, not that I have, reached any kind of pinnacle, but I feel like I'm in a really good place. So we'll see what God does with that. I don't know. But we'll see what God does with that. Another thing on the personal side, like I mentioned, I did, have a hysterectomy. So of course, physically I can't have kids anymore. But I am really starting to research and do some, background knowledge because I would like to adopt. Yeah, I do, and I think that it took me having to get to a place of having the hysterectomy because I had so many people say, well, are you okay? Or how do you feel? But I never had like a huge, separation and anxiety about having the hysterectomy because, first of all, I was tired of being in pain. Ugh. So I never had that emotional response. And I think it was because I knew what God put in my spirit. I shouldn't say always, but I've always had a desire to be a mother. But again, I had to, for me, I'm not suggesting this for others. Women have had children for hundreds of thousands of years for many different purposes and reasons. So I'm not discrediting anybody. But what I am saying, for me, I had to have space for it. I had to be emotionally and mentally ready for it. So I've just started to do some research. I picked up a book by Willie Moore Jr. I don't know if you would ever see this interview.
Sweet, yeah.
Yeah. I ordered his book during quarantine because he has a whole story about adoption and how he was adopted and all that. Yeah. So, those are some things that I really, am looking to do. I want a house finally. Geez, I'm like tired of the apartment living thing. Lord Jesus. So, personally, there are some things that I want to do. And I'm okay with saying that. For so many years, I didn't know what I wanted. I couldn't even figure out what to say. But now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Once you get to that point,
Yeah.
with a number of things in your life,
Yeah.
and have the confidence not
Yeah.
to say, yes, I want blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I am. Like, I couldn't even say I am your coach. I did not like even saying that.
Stop.
Oh my, I'm so serious. Like, it's just like
Yeah.
and I'm saying that because you're right. Like, you are. That's why I asked the question. Speak it.
Yeah.
Speak it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the Bible declares. Speak those things that are not as though they already were. And I think when you're able to speak it, this was another thing that was revealed to me. When you're able to speak it, you're okay with, not okay, you're at peace with the process of the manifestation. You're at peace with,
There's also an expectation.
yeah.
and anticipation.
Yeah.
Because I think part of not speaking it is there's an ownership that comes along with it.
Yeah.
Fear. I think it going back to when you said earlier about having faith.
Yeah.
Those things that you keep like you. How am I? This guy.
Mm-hmm.
Am I really that person? Like
Yeah.
things in that self doubt and that
Mm-hmm.
or the lack of
Mm-hmm.
expectation and thinking that something can happen and
Mm-hmm.
styles, whether it's owning your own business and being successful, all those different things. There's a level of confidence I think I know you have to have before you even have your hands on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think,
Making space.
yeah. And I think that oh, I'm so glad you said that, because I think that confidence causes you to be okay with the journey.
And I'm ready for the risk. But you
Yes.
gotta trust the process, even though
Yes. Yes. There has to be risk. You have to be willing to put yourself out there, and you have to recognize that even when you take a risk, even if it doesn't turn out the way you would have planned it, it's still all a part of the journey. It's still all a part of, okay, I had to take that risk in order to move forward.
because it's no different than I could say, I'm on my way to go and eat some lobster. You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll go with you.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go. You gonna meet me there? You want me to pick you up? You're like, oh, I'll meet you there. Well, if you don't get in the car
Come on.
and drive to meet
Come
me,
on. Come on.
give you some direction
Yeah.
which place we're meeting at. Like that,
Yeah.
all these things is a part of the process, but you got to put all that stuff together. But if
You
you
have,
are
yeah.
guess what? You're not there. You don't get lobster. And who knows what can happen as you drive there?
Come on. And here's the, yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing, as you drive there, as you continue the journey, I heard TD Jakes say in one of his sermons, you'll know it when you see it. You'll
But here's what I had to learn.
yeah.
I had to stop doubting my first mind and quenching. When I know go left, and I'm like, let me just go right. I know to go left. Like you know it.
Yeah.
But you get to this point, I think, when you're starting to make moves and you get in the car to take that drive to go get
Yeah.
there's some back to that comfort,
Yep.
but also not only that comfort, you also I can speak for myself.
Yeah.
If I make it there and there really is lobster.
Ah, meaning, come on.
So it's like, and then when you get there, I'm like, do I really get to eat lobster?
Come on.
So I have to tell myself, look,
Oh my God, that is so true. It's almost like, really?
so I'm like, you prayed for this, you asked for this,
Come on.
better start waking up looking for it.
Come on. Now you in the spirit on the Lord's day. That is so true, because what we're used to doing is we're used to living in our unbelief. We're used to, well, no, or we're used to questioning, doubting, not being sure. We're just,
And we're okay. We celebrate it.
oh yeah, that's our comfort zone.
I even said I had told a group, why, like, let's get over this celebration of shallow victory. That stuff is expected. We're here celebrating. Enough of that foolishness.
Enough. Enough.
I think it was this past week, Pastor Jamal Bryan said we've got to move past this place of low expectation and living to fulfill that low expectations.
Right.
And pivot from that. And I think that is all the strategies and the tools that we have walked through for the past few minutes.
Absolutely.
Be YOU-Ti-Ful.
Yeah.
Truly all about you. I mean, that's the big component in here. We've talked about mind, body, and soul and spirit.
Absolutely. And that is definitely what Be YOU-Ti-Ful is to me. You know, it's not just a cliche or, a culturally relevant term or however you want to label it. It is really the evolution of someone who is recognizing there is more for them. But in order for them to get to that more, they have to recognize the level that they are on. They have maxed out on the level that they're on. And they have to have courage, have heart, and take a risk to go after what they feel in their spirit. They just don't see it yet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, the personal side of things that I'm working on. But professionally, I'm really looking at expanding Lady Seal. I've been at it now. I started the radio in the summer of 2015. So I've been at it for about 5 years now. And again, I can't say that I'm at the point where I've maxed out because I'm just not getting started. But I feel like I've done as much as I can do in certain arenas, if that makes sense. So I'm really looking at ways to expand. I'm looking at ways to, I really just want to see how far I can go. I never considered myself to have a voice. It was just it was all God's design, but I never thought I had a voice for radio. I never considered myself to be a host or a journalist in front of the camera. So I just want to see how far I can go with it. Where
far as you can. There is so much more. You have the platform right now to communicate one message, because this show, Nick of Time, is all about exposing accidents and excellence. A little bit of all of that.
Yeah.
And some in between stuff. But right now you have the platform to share with the world one lesson so that they can shift into this place of Be YOU-Ti-Ful. What's that one message going to be?
I think that the one message I could convey is, first of all, you have to be, as I heard my very dear friend, Pastor Raphael Darden say, you have to be sensitive to the seasons that you're in. Where are you at in your life? If you are in a season of not feeling fulfilled, if you're in a season where you feel like you've maxed out and you have nothing else to give on the level that you're on, first of all, you have to be willing to acknowledge that, because you can easily say, I'm maxed out, I'm tired, I can't do anything on this level, but you don't admit it. You just keep doing the same thing you've been doing over and over again. So you have to be able to admit that. And then once you're able to admit that, you have to trust God enough to allow him to lead you into the next dimension. For some, the next dimension may be, okay, I need to do some inner work. That may mean going to counseling or going to therapy. Many of us in the African American community, we diminish the value of therapy. I think that
beautiful.
It's a beautiful thing. I started therapy actually when I started my whole process back in 2015, and I went for a while, and I'm really thinking about starting again because I feel like I'm on a new new level, and I need to know how to navigate that. So as you trust God to go through this journey, If it's counseling, therapy, fine. If it's taking a risk, recognize, this is something else that I'm going to tell that person that I was talking about earlier. Many times taking a risk does not mean trusting people. Taking a risk means, God, I trust you that you are going to guard and protect my heart as I follow you forward. And I think that if you are at that place of taking a risk, if it's personal, if it's professional, if it's emotionally, psychologically, whatever that risk is, put your trust in God. I remember that old gospel song from back in the day, Learn How to Trust in Jesus. We have to put our trust in him.
Learn to take him at his word.
Learn to take him at his word. Pastor Roach, learn to get in his word and see what the word says concerning the things according to you. And when you get to that place, and when you continue that process and that journey, to me, that's when all this work that you've been doing on the inside can start manifesting on the outside. For me, I started with weight loss. For somebody else, it could be dealing with credit, or going back to school, or finding that spouse, or finding that mate, or adopting kids, or getting a house, or whatever it is. When you go through that journey and trust God to lead you and guide you, to me, that is the beautiful journey.
I love it. We've come to the end of our time.
I know. My goodness. We could keep going on and on.
I know there was just so many jewels that were in there. I just thank you for allowing yourself to be vulnerable with us on this occasion, so that we can truly understand these strategies to be beautiful, and realizing that it is truly possible.
Yes.
Right now, we've got, as you mentioned, so much going on, coming at us, so many distractions, so much static.
Yes.
So much noise. And even in the stillness, can't even turn it down. But we bring it down to hear these strategies, to hear your journey, and now understanding we got this.
Yeah.
We can do this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Like front seat, like on the edge of my seat, like this. Next, I can't.
You sound like one of my dear mentors, Marilyn Ryan. You know Marilyn Ryan Jones. Oh my gosh.
Oh, you know, we connect.
That's what she told me. I didn't even know that. She was like, "Oh, Nikki, that's my girl." Marilyn is literally.
Get in the car to go get lobster. That's what we go do.
Listen, she is literally like my second mother, literally. And she has said to me on so many occasions, I'm excited to watch. I'm excited to see this story evolve. So I'm excited to watch it too. And we just, we're going to see what happens next.
People who want to join in on what it is that is next, and to be a part of that journey, and to be inspired along the way. Because like I said earlier, accountability comes in different ways.
Yeah.
Always talking to, but it's being able to see magic. I don't even want to say magic. I always say magic happen, but we're able to see God work.
Yes. Which can be magical.
Yes. Listen, miracles.
Come on.
So how can people find you?
Sure. On Facebook, you just can find me as Sylvia Watkins. On Instagram, I'm Lady Seal. Twitter, Lady Sylvia W. For the show, Be You-Ti-Ful with Lady Seal on Dynasty Television. Dynasty is an online media portal. So you can go to www.dynastytelevisionmediaportal. It's all one word. and just kind of search through, go under Dynasty shows, and then you'll see my face, Beautiful Lady Seal, and you'll see our programming.
Wonderful. This has been such a joy.
It has been.
I'll circle back around though.
I know.
Have this
I,
taken care of too.
I know. I know. If I could put one more thing out that I forgot to mention before, when I started the show 5 years ago, that really kind of gave me the opportunity to get out. I emceed and facilitated workshops and seminars and musicals and concerts and all kind of thing. And I recognized I was starting to have some of the same conversations with different women about some of the themes of the show. So that caused me to start an online class called the Be You-Ti-Ful Circle.
Hey.
Yeah, so I did that. I would say for about a good year, and we had a lot of success with that. But I'm kind of starting and hopefully I'll get to that by the end of the year. Kind of revamping the Be You-Ti-Ful Circle because I want to expand it, just give it a broader reach online. So we can prayerfully be on the lookout. I would love to start at the beginning of the year a new edition of the Be You-Ti-Ful Circle. I thoroughly enjoy teaching, but what I did was take some of the components of what it is to go through this Be You-Ti-Ful Circle. I created a curriculum for it, a workbook for it. We did all kinds of stuff with it. So hopefully I'll be working with someone really soon to kind of expand that. So that's kind of something else on the horizon.
So excited.
Yeah,
Excited.
it is.
Lady Jill, for giving us a little bit of your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And thanks to all of you who are watching and listening. We are so grateful. Doing anything else, but I'm hoping, no, I'm knowing that you're leaving this platform at this point changed. You're ready to shift, you're ready to pivot, you're ready to be beautiful. And thank you to Lady Seal for giving us the instructions, some instructions to start that journey. I'm your host, Vicky Roach. You're listening to Nick of Time radio show powered by Sparkling Scientific Careers and KSTL 690. Until next time, go be blessed, be amazing, keep doing and being amazing. And don't forget, you already have everything you need to be successful. Just tap into it.